So, all right, I'm gonna just dive into this. I know a lot of people aren't on, totally not surprised because it's super early in the day. But we're gonna get into this. I only have an hour to get through it, and then I'm gonna jump into my prepping for the meditation class that I'm doing at 4 o'clock. So onward. Yes, Acton Longhorns. I forgot that we were the Longhorns. I didn't even remember that. That's a great memory. I remember the High Desert Hawks, but I don't remember what we were in elementary school. Such a long time ago. Yeah, me siento viejo. I feel old. All right, so as you know, if anybody pops on as this goes along, just say hi, hello. I'm gonna dive into this because this is gonna be put up and whoever's meant to see it's gonna see it today or tomorrow or the next day. So we're just plowing forward. Onward. So we're continuing our discussion of the chakras. The quick update is last week we had a long discussion about trusting our intuition versus is it ego, is it trauma, is it stuff that's maybe not so inspired, interfering with trusting our intuition. What is that? And there's a lot there. And the most logical place I could go to actually answering that question or exploring it in any kind of, in a way, in a manner that gives it the appropriate attention, I realized I got to talk about the stuff that I wrote in the book, because the chakra system was the gateway for all that stuff for me. And it's an ongoing and a continual process of reflecting, of investigating, and flipping the script on narratives or experiences or things that just don't serve me anymore. And that's an ongoing process. And in the beginning, it's tough. There's a lot of work, kind of like the Spanish 1 class that I'm taking. It's like a huge amount of work up front. The first week was like 2 chapters in 1 week, and then we caught up. Now it's slowing down. So that's what'll happen when you do this work. It's gonna feel like, a lot at first, and then you get into it and it's gonna get slow. It's gonna get easier over time. And when you start doing it for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you do it your whole life, you just start addressing things immediately as they come up rather than letting them fester and sit. So that's the point we're gonna get to. We're just clearing the filters here with the chakras. So we're talking about the solar plexus chakra today. We talked about the root chakra. We talked about the sacral chakra. And now we're talking about the last of the earthbound chakras, which are essentially chakras that are connected to most prominently to the physical body, earth. Here. So the solar plexus chakra is the next one up. It's the last in the lower bound chakra or the earthbound chakras before we get to the heart, which is a bridge between the physical and the spiritual chakras. So let's dive in. Reading from Awakening Soul Force on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Go ahead, look it up and grab it if you haven't already. Shameless plug. Solar plexus chakra. Growing up, did you have the experience of feeling like your own person? Did your parents and authority figures give you the freedom to explore your interests, to express yourself, and experience the world in your own way? Or were there expectations placed upon you to behave a certain way? In a world where everyone wants you to see the world the same way they do and live up to their version of life, it can be tough to carve out your own path as an individual. There is an immense amount of institutional and social pressure to conform, to follow, and to play by someone else's rules. Sometimes it's easy to forget that we are blessed by our Creator with free will and all of the spiritual, emotional, and physical faculties to not just exist, but to thrive in this world in our own unique way. The solar plexus chakra is linked to the ways that we carve out our own identity, develop the inner strength to be and express who we are, and create a life based on our own truths, not someone else's beliefs or rules. So, kind of fitting. Hi, Christina. Thanks for being here. Good to see you on here. Fitting to be wearing the manifesting magician card. You know, the tarot card, the magician, is about manifesting, creativity, initiation, using all the tools you have at your disposal to create what you want. Perfect card for today's reading on the solar plexus, which has to really do with our identity and our ego and our personality. And that's not meant to be a negative thing. Ego is just part of being an individual. Sometimes that can be overinflated, it can be wounded, it can be out of control, and that's what we're going to try to manage when we get into this working with this chakra. So the color associated with this chakra is yellow on the color spectrum. Its location is located directly below the tip of the sternum and just above the stomach. So just below the sternum and above the belly button, basically. And what it is, the solar plexus chakra is related to our personal power, identity, ego, and mental intellect. It is connected to the qualities of self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, and personal will. Physically, this chakra is connected to our muscles, digestive system, liver, and gallbladder. Another thing that I'll mention before we get into the signs of balance, imbalance, and all that stuff, this is why sometimes if someone might say something like pretty nasty, you might get a really like gross feeling in the pit of your stomach. Someone goes after you, like goes after your character or goes after just a part of you, and maybe it's unexpected, you're not ready, but it just really lands and you can feel it like in your gut, your stomach turns. That's like a sign of the solar plexus. That's the part of it's our ego, it's our identity, it's our personality kind of taking a hit. And of course that always requires investigation. Well, is that warranted? Was it a warranted criticism? Is it reflecting something true and that's what hurts or what feels yucky? Or was this just like is this person kind of being oppressive? Are they trying to squash, who I am? And that requires investigation, but it's just an interesting cue I wanted to offer up. Mary says, I wasn't able to manifest until I was ready and willing to accept and love my own truth. Perfect. Mary, perhaps you're tuning in today just to get some validation about the journey you've been on. I know you've been on a really powerful journey. I've read for you a couple times, and it's so exciting to see you blossom in the way that you have. It's really, really cool. Okay, so let's talk about now, that's the basics of the solar plexus, where it is, what it is. Physical body parts, again, it's connected to our muscles, our digestive system, liver, and gallbladder. So for a quick review for people who maybe haven't tuned into the other chakra videos, our body parts, our physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a mental body, and ethereal body. They're all connected to these different aspects of ourself, connected to the chakras. So when we get into working with the solar plexus, we are dealing with power, identity, ego, and mental intellect, the qualities of self-worth, self-esteem, confidence, and personal will. But physically, this chakra is connected to muscles, digestive system, liver, and gallbladder. So when it comes to balancing this center, when it comes to working with this center in a conscious way, know that physically, we might see symptoms of imbalance arise in those body parts, or we might want to work on making those parts of ourselves healthy to help bring ourselves into balance. So let's talk about signs of balance and causes for imbalance. When our solar plexus chakra is balanced, we feel empowered and confident in ourselves and our abilities. We display an aptitude for balance, self-control, and self-discipline. Physically, we take care of our body by exercising and feeding it adequate food and nourishment. Emotionally, we are optimistic, responsible, and reliable, while also remaining adaptable. With a balanced solar plexus chakra, we're able to walk the line between being assertive and in control and remaining humble and open to taking new directions. It's a really important part of the solar plexus. You'll notice when we get into when things are out of balance, they're going to be really obvious. You're going to probably think of yourself in situations. You're probably going to think of people that you're like, oh, that's what's going on. Because walking that line of balance between being assertive and in control and giving direction or taking control of a situation and balancing that with being humble and open to those suggestions, that's a line we have to learn how to walk. We have to know when to give and when not to give, and what we stick with and the intentionality behind those actions or those things that we're doing. And we have to know when maybe we're bowling people over, or if we're being a bully, or if we're being too domineering. That takes, it's a careful calibration, and we'll become more sensitive to that as we work in this chakra center. So causes for imbalance. So I'm going to share this, and I want you to think about any of these experiences that you've had, or if these influences are part of your childhood or the environment that you're in. Just check in with yourself and ask yourself, if this rings true or familiar. So causes for imbalance. Overbearing authority figures can undermine the personal power we're meant to harness in the solar plexus chakra. This includes not only our leaders, who set the social standards and literally write the laws we follow, but also domineering or controlling parents, bosses, friends, romantic partners, or any other relationships that undermine our own inner authority. Now, it's not to say that being in relationship with these people undermines your inner authority. It's about those who might kind of like slug away at kicking your feet out from under you to kind of wrest control from you, or to make you doubt yourself. Something to be aware of. The influence of dictatorial and authoritarian governments and religious institutions that require submission and blind faith can also suppress our own personal identity, diminish our individual power, and erode solar plexus energy. You know, this is an interesting one for me because when I think about my mom's family who came from Cuba, you know, they lived in Cuba under a very oppressive, authoritarian regime. You were literally not allowed to speak out against the government, or else you would be imprisoned or killed. That will cause a serious disruption here, along with all the other chakras we've talked about, the sacral and the soul and especially the root chakra. You know, you have that foundation is ripped out from under you. So those are some of the things that might cause imbalances, and really it just comes down to other people trying to control what you're doing. Doesn't mean they don't have good intentions. It doesn't always mean it's a negative or an intentionally malicious thing or manipulative. It's just that sometimes that's what happens, and we have to learn, you know, where any wounding has come up around that, and where we have to kind of, you know, rest our own power back and say, no, this is my truth. This is what I'm doing. Here we go. When out of balance, so here's some things to look out for. It might indicate a little bit of an imbalance here. So you might want to turn to meditation or some activities to help bring power into this center. Physically, when the solar plexus is out of balance, we may experience stomach problems, eating disorders, food allergies or intolerances, and indigestion. Metabolic syndrome, diabetes, adrenal fatigue, and complications in the liver or small intestine are a few of the ways that an imbalance in the solar plexus energy might manifest itself. Chronic stress, panic attacks, frequent illness, muscle cramps, and multiple sclerosis, I can say that, can also be physical indicators that we need to revitalize this energy center. When there is not enough energy flowing through this energy center, we lack the willpower, courage, confidence, and the self-discipline necessary to fully be ourselves in the world. We may experience fear, anxiety, and self-doubt, as well as have a tendency to be overly critical of ourselves. We may also have a negative body image or look for other ways that we're, quote, not good enough. Being trapped in a victim mentality or having a sense of insecurity or inferiority are key indicators that we need to bring more energy into the solar plexus chakra. Underactivity in this energy center may also manifest as people-pleasing and allowing others to walk all over or take advantage of us. When there is too much energy in this chakra, we may overcompensate for those deep-seated feelings of not being enough. This could include being judgmental and critical of others, looking down on others, acting unethically, or being aggressive and domineering. Too much energy in this center may mean we become obsessive over our appearance, physically arrogant, and vain. Excessive flow of the energy in the solar plexus can lead to a misuse and abuse of power, violent outbursts, and authoritarian behavior. So, before I get into the mantras and the generating, you know, positive energy and the activities we can do to really bring energy into this, one of the examples, it is the one I share in the book, is when I was married, I was in a pretty very verbally abusive and manipulative relationship, and it definitely took its toll on this energy center. And one of the indicators that I found was fascinating. I've always worked out. I won't say I've always ate I won't say I ate clean, because, you know, there's times when you're trying to bulk up or whatever, and you pretty much just load up on as many calories as you can. But I've never really eaten like horribly, and I've always been a workout guy. And when I was in this relationship over several years, Don, sorry brother, Don's mad I didn't braid my hair. I went and cut it instead because it was just crazy. When I was in this relationship, when I got out of it, during that time period, the doctor kept saying that I was testing with really high blood sugar. And he was afraid that I was like pre-diabetic with the blood sugar readings that I was getting. One of the only things that changed in my life, and that went away, was I got out of that relationship. So when we talk about metabolism, we talk about the ways in which energy or circumstances and environment might affect our physical body. When it comes to our digestive system and the liver obviously is responsible for clearing out toxic stuff, but it also also plays a vital role in regulating glucose in our body. So In that relationship, almost the entire time I was with this person, I was having really high blood sugar readings. My metabolism was clearly out of whack. And when I got out of this relationship, that went away. Self-confidence also came back. I became much more empowered. I was open to the other relationships around me that were supportive and that helped build me back up. Friends like Tab and my parents, people who are around to say, that wasn't you, and that's not who you are, and go this way. Be brighter, shine brighter, be stronger. And that was a big turning point for me. So that's just an example of how that particular relationship was having a physical effect, and it wasn't just that I was like tired and I couldn't see straight, with as far as my intuition or my own vision was clouded by being in such a wacky dynamic. But those symptoms went away after I got out of that relationship, and I definitely think that was one of the reasons why. And when I was working with my chakra system, I knew that there was work to be done in that energy system when I finally gave myself the space to dive into that and embrace that. So let's talk about mantras. If you found yourself or have found yourself in situations like that, maybe it was a domineering relationship, maybe, whether it's parents or lovers, it could be a boss or something like that. Other forms of oppression. Let's talk about how we charge up this center. Don says, got to get back to your girl. Thanks, brother. Don Powers wants me to do my braids. Fun fact, since Don, I know he's gonna hop off, but Don was the guy that taught me how to be a trainer. When I was a personal trainer, a young personal trainer starting out, Don Powers was my big brother from another mother who taught me how to talk about training, how to work with clients, how to build rapport. He was, in his own time and in his own way, a great mentor to me, and I appreciate Don popping on and saying those nice things. Thanks, man. Really happy to see him and his girl and his wife growing and being a great family. Okay, so let's talk about solar plexus. Mantras to bring energy back into this. So again, mantras are just things that we can repeat to ourselves that are kind of like reprogramming our thoughts and beliefs to just kind of open ourselves up to bringing new energy, to charging up this energy center if we're wrestling with it. So mantras: I'm confident in who I am. I love my body. I'm powerful. I am free. Those are good ones for anybody. I'm confident in who I am. I love my body. I'm powerful. I'm free. Hey, Angie, good to see you on here. Welcome back. It's been a minute since I've seen you. Now let's get to the fun stuff, generating positive energy. So we were in a domineering relationship, a really toxic work environment. We've been perhaps on the receiving end of some social or political oppressive forces. Well, how can we charge this energy center up? How can we claim our power? Well, here's some ideas for how to do that and different ways that we can do that to bring ourselves into balance. Taking care of your body with adequate movement and uplifting activity can help revitalize this energy center. Honoring your wishes, exercising your free will, doing the things you love to do, following your gut instincts, and getting in the habit of pursuing the things you really want in the world are vital to empowering yourself from the inside out. You may not be able to tackle all of this at once, but if you make a commitment to really honoring who you are in small ways every day, you will build energy in this center. When you take tangible actions and combine those efforts with consciously working to clear out any negative beliefs, trauma, or energy blocks, you reclaim your personal power and take responsibility for bringing this chakra into balance. Working with the chakras as a whole really is about reclaiming yourself. And that's what the whole book is about. The whole book is about awakening to that authentic version of ourselves and claiming it and reclaiming it, remembering it. It's not that it's gone. It's just we've kind of forgotten for various reasons and influences, And so this journey is about understanding that and deconstructing and deconditioning and stripping ourselves down to the way we came into this world as a child, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, all wild and wacky, and refamiliarizing ourselves with those things. So when I say you do things that really honor who you are in small ways, and that's a way to bring power into this energy, that could be something as simple as, oh, I really want to wear goofy socks. And I don't care what anybody says about my goofy socks. I'm going to wear them because they're awesome and fun. It sounds small, but it's a little step like that that can help kind of push through those little blocks that we come up against. You know, like I said, I know it sounds silly, but little steps like that we can take to saying, no, this is who I am, and this is actually how I'd really like to exist in the world. I know I've told this story before, but it was interesting because it was before I got married. I was going through a little bit of an existential crisis, and in my journaling, I just knew there was a big difference between the guy who wrote down on the page, the guy who would channel messages, or the guy who would reflect in the journals, and the language that he would use, and the ideas as they would be expressed, and the confidence and the ease for which they would flow. And I knew that I wasn't that person in the real world. Like I wasn't being that out in the world and to other people. I wasn't really being authentic. I wasn't being fully honest. I wasn't revealing myself all the way. And that was the journey. That was the journey. And it took little things, little steps. And there were big steps too. There were big ways in which I had to exercise my power and my autonomy. You know, I broke off away from a deal with a big famous Hollywood producer that was like going to be signing up to a deal with the devil, and I wasn't going to do it. And that was a big moment for me. Breaking out of that marriage was a big thing for me. Those were big ways, but it began with little steps. It began with the intention of, I'm going to be more of the person that shows up on the paper. You know, the guy that journals and channels and philosophizes and is expressing those ideals and this vision on paper. I want to be that person in the world, and just that intention alone, you know, launched me on a journey. So there's no too small of a step that you could take to reclaiming your own personal power, to claiming your authentic self, and to aligning that with your higher vision, with the higher vision that God or loving awareness or your spirit guides, or it could be a person that holds a space and a vision for you, says, no, like this is who you are. Like you're smart, you're talented, you're creative, you're kind, or whatever it is, you know, whatever it is you got going for you, somebody that sees that says, no, embrace that, move into that. You know, don't be afraid to take little steps, because after you've taken enough, well, you've traveled a mile, you've traveled 2 miles, you've traveled 10. Before you know it, you're 100 miles into your journey and you're not turning back. Love you too, brother. Good to see you, Eric. Eric provided some really nice counsel to me the other day that I am deeply grateful for. Mary says, we all desire to heal others, but the root of the lesson is healing ourselves, and by doing so, we heal others. Yeah, totally. That is 100% true. 100% true. So let's continue on as we've done with each day. And for those who are following along every day, you may be like, okay, cool. We're going to the deconditioning thought experiment again. This deconditioning thought experiment is the thing we got to do with every aspect of ourselves, really doing the deep dive, working with these chakras, working with our past experiences, our hopes and dreams, our flaws and mistakes, and looking at them under a microscope, you know, and just picking them apart, analyzing them, understanding them, and figuring out what serves us and what does not serve us, what aligns with our highest vision for who we are and who we could be, and what does not. And this deconditioning thought experiment is an essential part of that. So we just talked about reclaiming our power, taking little steps to reasserting our authentic self. And there's no more perfect philosophical step to take than doing this little deconditioning thought experiment. So if you'd like to join along with us here, this will be the last thing we do before I pop off and get ready for the meditation in a minute. If you got any questions, feel free to throw them up there, and we'll get to them after we get through this deconditioning thought experiment. So I want you to think about this in general. If you haven't watched yet, you know, and you haven't done this, think about this in general, or think about these questions and these concepts as they relate specifically to the solar plexus. So if you have experienced in the past where you have lost yourself in others, if you've lost yourselves in a vision that someone else was holding, you didn't honor your true voice, your true feelings and desires or instincts, think about how these sponsoring thoughts impact maybe that dynamic, or how they may have kind of come about because of those situations. So let's look at this. The stories we tell ourselves about humanity and who we are as individuals is going to be at the center of the reflective work we're going to engage in moving forward. Therefore, before we dive into the next set of practices, I want us to take a moment to engage in a simple analysis of some of our own sponsoring thoughts. A sponsoring thought is a fundamental idea or belief that precedes the creation of all other thoughts. It is the philosophical soil from which the seed of our life springs and grows, which will determine how vibrant our life may potentially grow to be. Take, for example, the idea that human beings are born sinful and tainted by evil. This is a sponsoring thought about ourselves and all of humanity. If this idea or belief takes root in us through parental, religious, or social conditioning, before we become conscious and self-reflective, what do you suppose will be the unconscious self-image we develop? Will we view our lives, our bodies, our impulses, and our desires as fundamentally good or fundamentally bad? How do you think the guilt and shame around our humanness that arises from this founding idea may impact the energy flowing in our chakra system? And in this case, in the solar plexus. This is just one example I want to use to illustrate a larger point about what we'll be up to with this thought experiment. Our deepest spiritual and philosophical beliefs, at their very essence, carry an energetic vibration. This energetic vibration can move us more into alignment with our highest conceptions of the divine, love, compassion, and freedom, or this frequency can create an energetic obstacle standing between us and our highest human potentials. We're going to go through a series of questions and acknowledge the sponsoring thoughts we are working with. We are then going to question where our conception came from, whether we have any lived experience that tells us this belief is objectively true. Then we're going to explore whether or not there is a possibility for an alternate sponsoring thought to exist. So we'll go through this as a self. We'll use the self one, the one where we're asking questions about our sponsoring thoughts towards ourselves. So you can join along if you want. You can write answers in the comments if you want to, or not. You can keep it to yourself. But here we go. At the most fundamental level, do you believe that you as a person are essentially good, essentially evil, both, or a total blank slate? Why do you believe this? What was the moment you felt certain of this judgment? So this really is an immediate dive into consciously what's coming up for you around your solar plexus. What are your beliefs? What do you think about yourself? See what comes up. What was the moment you felt certain of this judgment? So whether you're good or essentially bad or both or a blank slate or something else that you come up with. Maybe I didn't mention it there. Maybe you've got another view. And you just ask yourself, why do I believe this? And what was the moment that I knew that? Why am I convinced of that? And now we're going to put that idea to the test. Well, what does your lived experience say about you? So put aside parents, teachers, friends, bullies, pastors, priests, TV advertisements, all the stuff that they've told you about who you are and what you've done. In your heart of hearts, when you lay your head down and go to sleep, what does your lived experience say about your moral nature, about who you are? And I'm going to change this question and make it different than how it's written in the book, but have you ever done things that were in alignment with this vision? Why? And have you ever done things that were totally out of alignment with this vision or this concept of who you are? And why? And what we're looking for in this analysis when we do this is we're just looking for our own little contradictions. And it's not to make hypocrites out of ourselves, but it's for deeper looking and for deeper understanding. and to create new space to see ourselves in the world, you know? So if already we're answering these questions and we found a contradiction, it's like, oh, okay, I hadn't thought about that. I do believe these things about who I am, but I've also done all that stuff. Oh, well, what's there? That's the question, right? What's there? And we're trying to create space create a space to not be so rigid about who we think we are, whether it's serving us or not. We want to expand the space a little bit. Then ask ourselves this: is there a possibility I have more to learn and experience about my own moral nature, about myself, before making a broad judgment about who I am? So that's an interesting one, because sometimes when we're just starting to embark on that awakening journey, when we're just starting to become conscious of who we are and where we've been, what informs us, what motivates inspires our actions and our intentions, sometimes we got to start back from ground zero. We got to wipe the slate clean and go, well, okay, what the heck am I? What's going on here? So instead of making a broad judgment about yourself, oh, I'm a terrible person, or I'm a bad mom, or I'm a failure in business, you know, some of those things that maybe, you know, we might think about ourselves. Well, maybe don't put ourselves in a box. We're trying to break that open. So if you've answered, yeah, there's more, I could probably learn more about myself. There's an opportunity there. There's space to grow and learn. Then are you open to shedding that sponsoring thought about who you are for the sake of understanding yourself more deeply without judgment? I'll use a simple example from my experience. I was an athlete for a long time. There's 100% a sort of devastating ego death that goes with being an athlete. And when you're an athlete and you've identified with being an athlete, and you've put all your time and energy into crafting and sort of solidifying that identity, well, when that ends, when that show is over, it's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Destabilizing. Who am I? I used to spend hours doing these things. Now I don't have those things anymore. Well, what do I like? I'm not sure what do I like. Well, I'm kind of interested in this stuff. Oh, but is that really worth my time? I mean, all of a sudden you can be like, woo, spinning out. But if your identity and your time and energy and attention has been so committed to being an athlete, and then that's not there anymore, of course, like, we're going to fall into a bit of we're going to have a little bit of an existential crisis. So are we open to shedding this idea that I'm an athlete, this is what I do, these are all the actions that are inspired? That's the first domino that gets knocked over that inspires the rest of our life. Well, what happens when that doesn't exist anymore? Well, where do I go? Well, am I open to removing, shedding that sponsoring thought or idea, removing that belief and saying, well, this is who I am? And can we kind of create ourselves as a blank slate just to see ourselves a little more clearly and to see ourselves without judgment, to not make place any value judgments on what has either been released or passing away in our life? And if we create that space for ourselves and we're open to reinventing ourselves, it's nice to reflect on, well, what is the highest vision of who I am? Who do I want to be in the world? And what sponsoring thoughts would support that vision? And that takes a lot of deep inner looking. It's a self-analysis. What are my values? What's my vision? What are my values? And what beliefs, what perspectives can support that highest vision? Of course, naturally, the way that I framed it in the book, the way that I'm framing it from the perspective of, I'm embarking on this journey because I want to make a connection with, like, the highest form of loving awareness. I want to integrate a higher dimension of loving consciousness and wisdom into my life. I want to transcend, maybe not transcend, I want to understand conflict. I want to be calm and clear in the face of conflict. I want to have emotions, but I want to understand them and see them clearly so that I'm not controlled by them, you know? I tend to speak in lofty ideals like peace and harmony and cooperation and love. And these are all components of that, but you know, this chapter, all these chapters, as far as how they're framed in the book and what this journey is about, is deconstructing who we've been so that we can create a space to see ourselves and the world clearly, and then we can get to the business of creating who we are, or I should say, creating kind of who we want to be, or who we allow what we are to just emerge from within us and to come forward, either from a deep place of inner expression or from an inspired place like we talked about yesterday. But it is about entering a phase of being able to engage with life creatively, unhindered and unbound by old ideas, old beliefs, old traumas, old wounds, old experiences that can become a block from us having a new experience, a more expansive experience, an experience that pushes us into deeper knowing of ourselves, of another, and of the entire world around us. It's a pretty great journey. A really great journey. Yes. All right. Any questions? Anybody? I'm just going to hang tight for like a minute or two and see if anything pops up. But otherwise, I'm going to pop on in the morning. The morning now, probably Saturday, Sunday, both. I'm going to probably try and jump on at around 10 to continue our journey with the chakras. But I really wanted to get this thing out today before I go on with the rest of my evening. And it'll be up for replay in the group. It'll be up on YouTube in sometime tonight. And we can revisit this and talk about it. If you have questions, you can feel free to reach out. A lot of people do send me private stuff. They'll send me messages or whatever. And I'm totally happy to take those questions. Don't be surprised if they inspire different chats. Because this little chakra segment has come from, there were so many questions about doing the deep dive and learning how to trust the intuition and being connected to that energy. And how do we get there? Well, it's a process. And understanding the chakras can be very helpful. Understanding these different aspects of ourselves can make us, can help us become conscious of that which is unconscious or unhealed or unawakened in us. And that's the whole process. That's the whole process in a nutshell. Making what is unconscious conscious, shining light into that which is dark inside of us, and understanding it, and knowing how to be a master of those things. All right, everybody, in the spirit of the Magician card, be well, be creative, be inspired. You got all the tools at your disposal to create for yourself the life, the perspective, the relationship that you want. It's about opening up to the inspiration and the information that can help get you there. But we all have the tools at our disposal. We just have to be willing to step into them and use them. So thanks so much for watching today. I appreciate you being here. I might see some people in the meditation class later today at 4 o'clock for Bene Mudra. I will be there doing a higher self check-in meditation. And if I don't see you there, I will see you tomorrow or the next day, or maybe never again. I don't know. We will see. All right. Have a great day, everybody. And we'll talk to you soon. Peace.